Hello and welcome to the Find Your Table virtual event brought to you by Bumble for Friends and Butterball. My name is Coren and I am a Turkey Talk-Line expert. I am a part of a team of Turkey Talk-Line experts who are food scientists, chefs, and culinary experts who have been talking turkey for over 40 years now. Outside of the talk line, I am a health educator, so I love helping people talk about what they eat and how it impacts their overall health. So today I have here with me Anita Michaud, who is the founder of Dinner with Friends and a Bumble for Friends partner. Thank you, Anita, for joining us here today. And what inspired you to start Dinner with Friends?
Hi, Coren. Thank you so much for the intro. As you said, my name is Anita Michaud. I first moved to New York right after I graduated from undergrad in the summer of 2021. And when I first moved here, I was so surprised by how difficult it was to meet new people. I think the pandemic really shifted the way that we're making friends and the way that we interact. And it really got me to think about friendship and my approach to friendship and how I might start making new friends in the city that I was calling home. I really put some thought into what my ideal friendship first date might look like, and that's what sparked Dinner with Friends. So what I do is I host dinner parties right here in New York City for strangers turned friends over the course of an evening and a beautiful meal that we eat together. I actually used Bumble for Friends to organize my first dinners when I was first starting Dinner with Friends. So it feels very full circle now to be partnering with them and to be here for this event today. I think food is really one of the best ways to get to know someone and get to know their background, likes, dislikes, really everything about a person just from sharing a meal together. And when you combine food, new friends, and Thanksgiving, the possibilities really are endless. So tonight I'll be serving here as your host on this Learn to Turkey event, just like I host my Dinner with Friends. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything along the way, certainly feel free to use the chat feature and we'll get to as many as we possibly can. So Coren is going to walk us through the simple steps to roasting a turkey. I'd love to hear your thoughts as we go along, so please feel empowered to interact as much as you can. So Coren, I'm going to turn it over to you. It can be really difficult to even know where to begin when you're hosting for the first time, and I know it was definitely overwhelming for me. So what advice would you have for a first-time holiday host, and where do you even begin to start when you are roasting a turkey?
Yes, so cooking a turkey is actually a lot easier than you might think. And the first step is actually to confirm your guest list. You want to know how many people you're going to be cooking for. And Butterball.com actually has a really great resource that is a calculator that you can put into the calculator how many people you're going to be cooking for, and it will calculate, it will populate about how many pounds of turkey you will need to get. So let's say, for example, you are going to be hosting a party for 6 people. The recommendation is to serve them about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of turkey per person. So that would be a 12-pound turkey, especially if you want to allow for leftovers as well. You can buy fresh or frozen, that doesn't matter, but keep in mind that if you do buy a frozen turkey, you're going to have to allow time for it to thaw. So Butterball.com is also a really great resource for thawing tips. The simplest way is to remove your turkey from the freezer and put it into the refrigerator to thaw that way. It's going to take a few days to thaw in the refrigerator, so you want to make sure you're allotting time for that. But you want to keep in mind that give it about 1 day for every 4 pounds of turkey. So in this example, a 12-pound turkey is going to take about 3 days to thaw in your refrigerator. It's a really important step to keep in mind, the thaw process, and it's often overlooked. But that is why Butterball created the National Thaw Day, which is actually the Thursday before Thanksgiving. So starting tomorrow, no matter what size turkey you're working with, tomorrow is a good time to take your turkey out of the freezer and go ahead and put it into the refrigerator on a tray to start that thaw process. And the tray is important because as it thaws, it might start to leak any juices, and you want to make sure that those don't leak over your refrigerator.
Awesome. So I'll indulge our procrastinators that might be out there and ask the question on some people's minds, which is, what if you find yourself in the position that you're hosting a Friendsgiving last minute?
Yes, those last minute plans happen, right? So it is possible to thaw your turkey out quickly. It's possible to get it thawed out within a day or so. And you can do that by using the cold water thaw method. So instead of putting it in the refrigerator, you'll take your frozen turkey, put it in your clean kitchen sink or in a food safe container. Cover the turkey, leave it in all of its packaging, and cover the turkey in cold water. Change that water every 30 minutes. Start breast side down, and as you change the water, flip the turkey so that it gets thawed out throughout. And with this example for a 12-pound turkey, that could take about 6 hours, but Butterball.com can give you a timetable, no matter what size turkey you have, about how long it would take to thaw in cold water.
All right. So that's great. It sounds like we have options, even if we're hosting last minute. And we do have a few questions from the chat already. So, what if you forget to thaw? Can you just leave the turkey on the counter overnight?
No, for food safety reasons, we would not recommend that. Leaving your turkey out on the counter is not safe at all. It really invites bacteria to grow and could cause a foodborne illness even if you cook it. So we want to stay away from that. We don't want to make anyone sick from the turkey that we're trying to prepare. The safest ways are in cold water or in your refrigerator.
Right. So keep those turkeys in the fridge or the freezer is what I'm hearing. Can you tell us a little bit about how long you might be able to leave your turkey in the fridge? So let's say if you did take it out of the freezer and it was completely thawed and you're not even going to serve it for a few days, how long can you reasonably leave it in the fridge?
That's a great question. So once your turkey is completely thawed, you have 4 days before you must cook it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we had just got a question about, is it possible for a turkey to go bad while it's thawing? A week seems like a long time, but it sounds like we have 4 days, you said, correct?
That's right. Yes, 4 days,
Okay.
whether you thaw it in your refrigerator or in a cold water bath.
All right. Cool. And so what if you find yourself in the position where you're hosting a smaller gathering and maybe you decide that you don't want to cook a whole turkey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, if you are hosting a small gathering, it could still be beneficial to roast a whole turkey. You're going to have really great leftovers that you can use, that you can also freeze for later use. But if you don't want to cook a whole turkey, you can also cook a bone-in turkey breast, in this example here, or a turkey roast. Those can serve anywhere from 2 to 3 up to 6 to 9 people, depending on how big of a turkey roast you're able to find, but that's also an option.
Cool. All right. Those are some great questions. Definitely please keep them coming and we'll promise to try to get to as many as we possibly can. So just to recap where we've gone so far, at this point, hopefully you've determined your guest list so you know how many folks will be joining you for your gathering. You purchased your first whole turkey, maybe your 10th, whatever it might be, somewhere in between. Coren, tell us where we're going next and what we can expect to do.
Yes, so now it's time to start preparing your turkey. And the first thing that you're going to do is preheat your oven to 325. Preparing and cooking a turkey is actually a lot easier than you might think. So once your oven is preheating, you can go ahead and start preparing everything for the turkey. The first thing you're going to do is take it out of all of its wrapping. You'll want to do that in your kitchen sink because the thawed turkey is going to have a lot of juice that's in that packaging, and you want to make sure for food safety reasons that you keep your counter and everything as clean as possible. So once it's out of its wrapping, it's going to look something similar to this. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is to remove the neck and giblets from the turkey. So the neck is going to be in the body cavity. And you can just put it to the side. And the giblet pack is going to be in the neck cavity in a bag that looks like this. So you'll put that to the side too. You can save those for later. You can use them for gravy if you'd like, but for right now we'll put them to the side. You'll want to tuck the wings underneath the neck of the turkey, and this nice skin flap that comes with Butterball turkeys keeps the drumsticks together, so you don't have to worry about tucking those either. So after you've taken the turkey out of its packaging, actually first, you'll go ahead and want to put it into its roasting pan, and you'll also want to use a roasting rack. So this turkey is actually sitting on top of a coil of foil. It looks like this. It's just a piece of foil that you roll together into a circle like that so that you can have something to sit your turkey on top of. It's really important that you lift your turkey up, raise it up off of the bottom of your roasting pan so that air can circulate around it. If you don't have a roasting rack, or you don't want to use a coil of foil, you can also use vegetables. So I have some carrots and celery here, and you can put those under the turkey to help raise it up. When you use vegetables to raise the turkey up, it's also going to give really good flavor for your drippings. You can also use your drippings for gravy too. So just like that. And then we can get into the optional step of stuffing your turkey. You don't have to stuff your turkey, but a lot of people like to stuff their turkey. And to do that, you want to make sure that your stuffing is already prepared in advance. You want to make sure that there's no raw food in your stuffing. You want to prepare it right before you're going to stuff your turkey. So don't stuff your turkey the day before and then the next day put it into your oven. You just want to make sure that you're stuffing it right before you're ready to put it into the oven. Another thing to keep in mind is you don't want to pack it too tightly. So, because it's going to be important for the stuffing to get up to a food safe temperature as well. And lastly, if you do choose to stuff your turkey, you're not going to want to grill it, smoke it. You're only going to want to cook it in the oven. Roast it in the oven only if you're going to stuff your turkey. So that's good for the stuffing. Then we are going to brush our turkey with vegetable oil. And this is going to be important because we want our skin of the turkey to have a really nice golden color. We want the skin to be crispy and delicious. So I've got vegetable oil here, and I'm just putting it on all the parts of the turkey. A thin layer is fine, and you can also use cooking spray. But vegetable oil is going to be helpful when it comes to that nice golden brown skin. You can use avocado oil as well. You can put butter underneath the skin for some really nice flavor, but you might not want to use butter over the skin. Okay, I think that's good. After you've brushed the turkey with vegetable oil, you can go ahead and season it. And the great thing about Butterball turkeys is you can choose to season it or not. The Butterball turkey is already pre-basted with a basting solution, so it's got really nice flavor. It's going to be juicy and tender. But if you want to make your turkey your own, give it some other flavors, you can always use, of course, salt and pepper. Garlic, rosemary, thyme are good options as well. But if you're looking for something and you're not sure what to use, you can go to butterball.com for a lot of great recipes on what to season your turkey with, or dry rubs and things along those lines. So this is where you can really make the turkey your own and add some additional flavor. Okay, now that my turkey is prepped, it's ready to go into the oven. I'm going to put it in here. My turkey is prepped, it's in the oven. Now it's really important to clean up my prep space. It's important to wash your hands, wipe down your counters, because you've just been handling a lot of raw turkey. So you want to make sure that you're cleaning up after yourself as soon as the turkey gets into the oven. A 12-pound turkey is going to take about an unstuffed 12-pound turkey is going to take about 3 to 3.5 hours to roast at 325. If you choose to stuff it, it's going to increase the cook time, so it could get up to almost 4 hours to up to 4.5 hours. But there's a really nice calculator on a really nice timetable on butterball.com that no matter what size turkey you have, whether you stuff it or not, you can get a time estimate on how long it's going to take to roast, because ovens vary and you want to be sure that you're not going to overcook your turkey, whether you stuff it or not.
Okay, cool. So we've covered a lot there. I think your point about seasoning is really interesting, Corin, because I know there's so many holiday hosts that are out there, myself included, who really want to put our own stamp on the occasion. And it sounds like seasoning is one of the many ways to do that. But outside of the turkey as well, there are also so many ways you can really customize your Friendsgiving or Thanksgiving gathering. So there's a few ways that I like to do this at my dinner with friends that I have myself. One of the ways that you might want to do that is through different side dishes for your gathering. So one idea that I really like is maybe incorporating a meal from home, wherever that might be, into your gathering. So that might be something that is a new twist on a Thanksgiving classic. It might be something that's totally non-traditional. Really, the world here is your oyster. But in my Thanksgiving this year, I'll be serving a Chinese style stuffing. So kind of a new twist on an old favorite that we really like. Another way that you could choose to make things a little bit interesting is by tapping into your creative side. Maybe you want to pull out all the stops and do a show-stopping dessert that really showcases your creativity. And of course, you can't forget drinks that come along with the occasion as well. So if there's a classic cocktail, maybe that you and your guests really like to enjoy together, maybe that's what you're serving up. You could decide to maybe go even more creative, make a completely new cocktail for your evening as well. A wine pairing that might be interesting if that's the route you want to go is a Pinot Noir. If you're a red wine drinker, is probably one of my favorites to incorporate. A Chardonnay is also a very classic white wine that you can bring into your Thanksgiving feast. If you're like me and you don't really like that very traditional, I guess, oaky Chardonnay, a Chablis, French Chablis might be a nice, a little bit more of a crisper taste that you might want to incorporate. But we have quite a few questions from the chat, Corin. I'm hoping you could help me out here a little bit. We have a question from Adrienne about if turkeys have light and dark meat.
They do. So the breast meat is the white meat, and the drumstick and thigh is the dark meat.
Okay. Would you recommend, like, if you really like dark meat, that you're only eating that specific part of the turkey? Might you find it somewhere else as well?
Butterball actually sells drumsticks separately. So if you wanted to just, maybe if you're having a smaller gathering and you decide to do a turkey breast roast and you still want some of the dark meat, you can opt for cooking the drumsticks separately.
Cool. We've also talked a lot about thawing and making sure that your turkey is thawed in time, and you've given us a lot of great options. If there's someone out there who might be too nervous to even just make sure they're bringing out in time, does Butterball bring out fresh turkeys? Is that also an option as well if you don't want to mess around with the frozen and thaw?
Absolutely, yes. Butterball does have fresh turkeys. They usually start to show up in your grocery stores around the beginning of November. And the key that you'll want to look out for is on that tag, it's going to have a date of a use by, and that date is through Thanksgiving. So if you buy a fresh turkey in November, it's going to be good for Thanksgiving. No need to thaw.
Yeah, awesome. Good to know. In your demo, you showed a few different ways as well that you can elevate the turkey. So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about why you actually need to elevate the turkey, if there's pros or cons behind any of those approaches that you shared.
Yes, absolutely. So whether you're using a roasting rack or vegetables or the coil of foil, it's really important to elevate your turkey so that the air can circulate around it as it's cooking. You don't want the turkey to sit in its juices as it's roasting. It's going to prolong the cook time. And we want to make sure that it's getting to temperature within that time frame so that your turkey won't overcook.
Totally. And when you were showing the vegetables, is there a specific type of vegetable you should use if you want to use that to elevate your turkey?
Yeah, it's really up to your personal preference. In this example, we use carrots and celery. Some people might use potatoes, asparagus. It's really up to you. The most important thing is that it's something stable that can really raise that turkey up.
Totally. Cool. We have a question that might be on a lot of people's minds, which is how do we prevent the turkey from coming out dry? Is there any steps that we could take during the prep stage to make sure that doesn't happen?
Dry turkey is really mostly comes down to overcooked turkey. So it's really going to be important to watch your cook time, watch the recommended cook time, and use a meat thermometer. Once your turkey gets up to those done temperatures, it's safe to eat, so there's no need to keep it in the oven for any longer. You can go ahead and take it out and start to serve it.
Okay, cool. So maybe we'll come back to that question when you show us how you're actually roasting the turkey as well to make sure that the turkey is coming out perfect. You've also talked a bit about bringing the neck and the giblets out. So can you tell us more about why we need to bring those out, if there's anything we should be doing with them after we bring them out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we definitely don't want to leave the neck and giblets inside the turkey before we put it into the oven. It's really important that you remove those. And when you do remove them, you can use them in gravy or soups or things along those lines. But if you don't want to make a gravy out of your giblets, that's totally fine. It's optional, but it's important to at least take them out of the turkey before you start roasting.
Totally. Um, is there a way to bring a turkey back if you put it in the oven and you forget to take those parts out?
So in most cases, we wouldn't recommend eating the turkey if you did forget to take the giblets out, but you can definitely call us and we can walk you through some options if you did leave them inside your turkey.
Okay, cool. You heard it there first. Call the Turkey Talk line. We'll be able to walk you through that crisis if should it happen. You also put oil on the turkey as well before it went into the oven. Is there a particular type of oil that we should use? I know a lot of cooks have cooking spray on hand. Is that something we could use instead?
Yes, you can definitely use cooking spray. I actually use cooking spray. It's really easy to apply to the turkey, but vegetable oil works just as good. You can use canola oil, avocado oil, um, just something to make sure that you get that nice golden brown skin on the turkey is really helpful.
Okay, cool. We have a few more questions, and then I promise we'll let you move on. If we do decide that we want to season the turkey, you mentioned there's a few different options that we have. Are there any popular favorites that you always use year after year? And then if you put it in the oven with the seasoning, do you need to pull the turkey out of the oven to make sure that the seasoning continues to be, do you have to reapply it or check on it or anything like that?
Yeah, so some really popular basic seasonings are, of course, salt and pepper. You can do garlic, rosemary, thyme, just any dried herbs are really popular. But, make it your own. You could get creative and try a Cajun spice seasoning. If you're grilling your turkey, you might want to try a barbecue rub on your turkey. There's also brown sugar marinades that you could do as well. So there are a lot of options out there, and Butterball.com has a lot of great recipes that you can follow as well if you wanted to try something outside of maybe the norm. And then your second question, right, was do you need to keep seasoning it? So no, once you've prepped your turkey and it's in the oven, you don't need to take it out to keep seasoning it. You don't want to run the risk of it getting too salty by doing that. Once the turkey's in the oven, you can leave it be. There's no need to keep tending to it once it's in the oven.
Okay. And then one last question for right now, which is about brine. So, do you need to brine the turkey? Is there any benefit to brine? Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, brining is pretty popular, right? So the Butterball turkey is already injected with a brine solution, which is really nice. It helps with that nice flavor, the nice juicy turkey. And you can brine your turkey separately from that. It's totally fine to do. You may want to watch how much salt you put in your brine recipe because the Butterball turkey is already brined. But there are a lot of great recipes out there that you can use to brine your turkey. It's absolutely okay to do. And Butterball.com has recipes for brines as well.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much for all the questions we've gotten so far. If you just joined, certainly feel free to drop any questions or comments that you have into the chat, and we'll do our absolute best to get to as many as we can. But Coren, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Where are we going next with our turkey?
Yes, so we're about midway through of our roast time with the turkey. It's been in the oven, and it's actually really low maintenance. Once the turkey is in there, you don't have to really check on it much, like I said. So you have a lot of time to spend with your guests and family and enjoying time with them, and you don't have to be held up in the kitchen so much, right? So the only time you're really going to check on your turkey is about 2/3 the way through. So in this example with a 12-pound turkey, that's going to be after about 2 hours. And what we're going to be looking for is the temperatures with our thermometer. we want to make sure that the breast at this point is getting close to 170 degrees. The stuffing is getting close to 165 degrees, and the thigh meat is getting up to 180 degrees. So in this oven, I have an example of a turkey that has been roasting for some time, and I can show you where to test the turkey as it's cooking and what to do if you notice that it's getting done too quickly. So with the breast meat, you just want to put your meat thermometer in a few spots to check to see how quickly it's getting done, and in the thigh as well. So you can test it here, go through here, and then in the stuffing too, if you had it stuffed. So if you notice that the breast meat is getting really close to 170 degrees, but the thigh meat is not, what you can do is you can take a piece of foil like this and just gently place it over the breast meat and the tops of the thighs so that you don't overcook your breast meat while the thigh meat is getting up to temperature as well. So I'm going to put this back in the oven and let that finish cooking to make sure that it gets up to those done temperatures. That's going to be really important. Like I mentioned, I don't want to overcook my turkey, and I also don't want to undercook it. So I need to watch it after about 2/3 of the way through.
Great, awesome. So I know we had a question earlier, maybe this is a good time to revisit it, referring specifically to making sure the turkey isn't dry. So it sounds like the foil is one way to combat that. Is there any other ways that we can make sure that our turkey comes out beautiful?
Yeah, so the foil is also going to help that top breast meat from browning too quickly or too much. So that's going to help make sure that the skin stays nice and crispy without getting burnt or anything along those lines. One thing that I'll also mention is that, like I said, the turkey is really low maintenance. There's really no need to keep taking it out to baste it. The Butterball turkey is already pre-basted, so every time you open that oven, you're letting out that hot air. You're going to prolong the cook time, which is also going to run the risk of you overcooking your turkey, which is going to result in a dry turkey. So leave the turkey in the oven, let it be. Unless you're checking the temperature, there's no need to baste it.
I feel like you may have shocked some people because the basting is probably the hardest part, and it's really what keeps us cooped up in the kitchen all day and away from our guests. So let me get this straight. You're telling us that basting is not only unnecessary, but it's actually not even recommended.
No, we don't really recommend it. We want to make sure that the turkey is cooking fully, so letting out that hot air is only going to draw out that cook time, maybe even push back dinner.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't want that. Wouldn't want unhappy guests on our hands. Can you tell us a little bit more about the exact temperatures we're looking for and how we can correctly measure the turkey to make sure that it's actually done?
Yes, so there's a really great video on butterball.com that walks through this as well. But when you're using your meat thermometer, you want to make sure that the breast meat is getting up to 170 degrees. You want to make sure that your thigh is getting up to 180 degrees. And if you did stuff your turkey, you want to make sure that that stuffing is getting up to at least 165 degrees.
Makes sense. I see you have a thermometer in your hands. I'm curious to know if a meat thermometer or digital thermometer is recommended.
So this is a digital thermometer. It really doesn't matter if it's digital or not. It's just really important to have a meat thermometer to make sure that your turkey is getting up to safe temperatures. You can find them at your local grocery store. A lot of them are fairly inexpensive. So this is definitely a crucial piece to cooking your turkey.
Got it. And we have a question about the foil and specifically when you tent it. So can you tell us how brown the turkey should be or the breast should be before you tent it, and how you know if you actually need to use the foil?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The foil is more so about making sure that your breast meat doesn't get dry and overcooked while the thigh meat's getting up to temperature as well. So it's more so looking out for temperatures with your meat thermometer and less about how brown it's getting, because the foil is going to slow down that cook time to make sure that the turkey as a whole gets up to temperature.
Cool. Makes sense. And we have more great questions, so keep them coming. But Corin, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Our turkey's been in the oven for a minute, so what's coming up next?
Yes, so depending on if you stuff your turkey or not, it's probably getting close to those done times with the temperatures that we talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and take this turkey out of the oven that has been roasting, and we'll go ahead and talk about what's next. Let me take off this first. So now that my turkey is done, it's reached all of its finished temperatures, I want to let it rest before I start carving it. The turkey is really, really hot, so I don't want to burn myself trying to carve a hot turkey, and I want to make sure that the juices that have been roasting and within the turkey are settled so that they don't run out as I'm carving. I want to make sure that the turkey stays juicy, so it's really important to let it rest before I start carving. And you want to do that for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The resting is a very critical part. So don't start carving right away. Let it rest for at least 15 minutes to make your carving go easier.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, definitely.
All right. So it sounds like our next step is carving. Can you walk us through what that might look like?
Yes, so in this example, I just took it out of the oven, but it has been resting. So it's not as hot as it would be in real time. But when it comes to carving, there's actually a really great video on butterball.com that demonstrates this. But I'm going to show you how I do it when, I'm cooking my turkey. Keeping in mind that carving a turkey is not always going to be pretty. So as you can see, the first thing I do is I separate the drumstick from the body. And that piece of skin I also can cut too. You see I have the stuffing. Then I'll go ahead and carve away the breast meat from the breast like this. Now a lot of people really want that nice golden turkey to serve on their kitchen table, but because carving can be kind of messy, a lot of people carve their turkey in the kitchen and serve it for people that way. So whatever makes the most sense to you. But after you've carved away the drumsticks, you carve away the breast meat, you slice underneath the breast meat along the ribs to separate it that way too. And then you can go ahead and start slicing the turkey for serving people.
Cool. So I know carving a turkey for the first time can feel like a very daunting task. So do you have any pro tips you can share with us to make this feel a little bit easier?
Take your time. The first time I did it, it is kind of overwhelming, but just remember it's not always going to look perfect like it does on TV. It might, the skin might peel off like it is here, or your pieces might shred a little bit, but that is okay. What's really important is serving a really nice turkey to your loved ones and enjoying each other's company and good food. So this is just an example of like how it can happen and what it will look like when you're carving. So take your time, take the pressure off yourself, because it might not always turn out the way you think it should, like this piece.
Hey, it looks pretty good, for what it's worth from my end here.
Yeah.
I know we have had a couple questions about drumsticks, and you've given some color there about how to incorporate that into your carving. So, do you have a recommendation for the best way to go about this?
Yeah, so the drumstick, I don't know if you could see, but after I separated it from the body, it was just that simple of I can carve off a piece that way. You can also fully carve it off the body of the turkey by after you separate it from the body here, you can further carve it away from the thigh and then carve it separately on another plate. But yes, carving in general can be a daunting task, but like I said, on butterball.com, there's a video that might be helpful for people at home to watch as well. But really, the most important thing is making sure that your turkey is up to temperature, safe to eat, and that you've got loved ones around you to enjoy it with you.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Do you have a particular kind of carving knife that you would recommend? I see you have quite a large one there, but if you have any tips you can share with us.
Sure. So make sure your knife is sharp. Any carving knife will really do. That would be the tip that I would say for sure.
Makes sense. I know we all know about the wishbone and there's some lore surrounding that. So if we're looking for the wishbone, where exactly would we find that?
Yeah, so it's actually at the front of the breast right here. You can kind of see that the breastbone is showing here, so you're really going to find it at the very top of the breast.
Cool. And then I have one more question for this particular section, which is after you're done, right? You've had your fill, you've eaten your turkey, and everyone's left. What is the best way to store leftovers?
The best way to store leftovers is in airtight containers. But the real key is to make sure that you're getting your turkey carved off the bone and all of the sides and everything into the refrigerator within 2 hours. The longer you let your food sit out, the more prone it is to quickly developing bacteria that could cause a foodborne illness. So within 2 hours, get your turkey carved off the bone, get it into the refrigerator in those airtight containers. After that, the leftovers are good for about 2 to 3 days, or you can freeze them as well. But after that 2 to 3 days, you just want to go ahead and toss them.
Cool. Makes sense. Do you have a favorite way that you like to eat leftovers?
Yeah, Butterball.com has a really cool recipe that I tried a few years ago, which is the stuffing waffle sandwich. So it would be taking stuffing, putting it into a waffle maker, and that's your bread, and then using turkey slices to make a sandwich. So you can use turkey, any other fixings from your leftovers that you might like cranberry sauce and all the good stuff to make a really awesome sandwich.
Cool. So I just want to recap for everyone that's on the line what we've done so far in the steps that go into roasting a turkey. So Corin broke it down for us. It's as simple as preheating your oven, prepping, roasting, checking, resting, and carving. So had you started your turkey this whole process by the start of this call, you probably would have been about done by now with those steps, which is about 30 minutes in total. And 15 minutes of those steps were just spent on resting, letting the turkey rest before actually carving it. So you have that rest of that time, which is about 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours to actually spend time with your loved ones, which is really what the holidays are all about. So, Corin, I'm curious to know, what are we forgetting?
Well, if you forget anything or you're trying to troubleshoot something around your turkey, definitely give us a call at 1-800-BUTTERBALL. We are here to help with any tips or tricks or recipes that you're trying to sort through. You can also text us at 844-877-3456. We're on social media as well, so you can find a lot of great videos and tips there. And of course, like I mentioned, butterball.com has a lot of great information on it too.
Cool. All right. So we have a lot of questions, so hopefully we can get through them all. Corin, we have a few questions for you. So is there anything you can do with the turkey bones, or should you just throw them away?
Yeah, you can definitely use your turkey carcass, your turkey bones, to make stews or broths. That is a really great option for your leftovers, for freezing a soup made with your turkey bones.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned that there is a specific way in which you should be storing leftovers. So take it off of the bone, put it in the fridge. Make sure you're not leaving in the fridge for too long. But can you tell us a little bit about if the turkey can be refrigerated without removing it from the bone?
We do not recommend refrigerating a whole turkey left on the bone as your leftovers. The bacteria is going to multiply that way. So it's really, really important to carve it off the bone first and store it in an airtight container so that you don't have any issues causing a foodborne illness by refrigerating the entire turkey on the carcass.
Totally. And we have a question from Ange about sides that we'd recommend for turkey. So curious to know what your take is, Corin, on some of your favorite sides maybe, and I'm happy to also share some of mine as well.
Favorite sides, yes. So I do love stuffing. I also love, like macaroni or green beans. Those are really great sides as well. So those are definitely some of my favorite.
Yeah, you stole a few of mine as well. Mac and cheese is definitely up there. Like I said, I'm making a Chinese style stuffing for my Thanksgiving this year. There's a few other things I like as well. Green beans are definitely up there. Um, Recently at a Friendsgiving, I did a few different recipes that are a little bit different than the traditional Thanksgiving recipe. So I did a glazed, like multicolored carrots with tahini and mint on it. It was really delicious. So that was one of my more recent recipes I made that I really enjoyed. Another one as well is using winter squash. If you've never had it before, highly recommend. It's very delicate and delicious. And I glazed it with maple miso butter. So very, very fall, very Thanksgiving as well. So those are some ideas you can have if you're looking for some more creative ideas. But remember, the classics are a classic for a reason. So if you're someone who you like having the green beans, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, cranberry sauce, all that kind of stuff. You could spice it up a little bit, do something a little bit different, but they are classics for a reason. So if you find yourself wanting those year after year, it's probably best to stick to the status quo in that case and continue to serve them. I have another question as well for me about cocktails. One of my favorite topics. I went to a Friendsgiving recently where we had a Pim's cup. I never had it before. I think it's actually from England, so not an American drink at all, but it was super delicious. I'd never even had it before and I really loved it. But I think one thing that can be kind of nice, it's a cocktail sort of, but a punch can be a really effective way to serve for your gathering. So punch bowl is a classic for a reason, but I think sometimes that can be a really nice way to go about it. And Pim's Cup, I had it in a punch bowl and it was super delicious. So highly recommend that if you're looking for something a little bit different. That might be something interesting. Um, I have another question as well, which is about dinner with friends and how I got it started. And then, Coren, I'd also love to hear your perspective on Friendsgiving, and maybe you could share one of your favorite Friendsgivings you've been to. I started dinner with friends, as I mentioned, right after I moved to New York. It can be very lonely moving to a new place. I'm originally from Michigan. I'd spent my whole life there, and I moved to New York. I was so excited about moving here. I didn't really think much about what it would be like when I was actually here. And suddenly, when the dust settled and I was moved in, I realized that I didn't really know that many people here. And I kind of expected just living in a place as big as New York. And I think maybe if you live in any other big city, that you might find it to be the same for yourself, that you might have expected that it would just be easy to meet people because there are so many people. But that really wasn't the case. And I was also at the same time trying to reconnect with some of the passions that I had, one of them being cooking. So my grandparents owned a Chinese restaurant when I was growing up. My parents owned a restaurant as well, something I was always around, but I never really thought much about until I found myself, looking for a hobby that I wanted to reconnect with. And I started just cooking like mad. And one day I had this idea about dinner parties. And I'd always loved hosting dinner parties before, but I wondered what it would be like to host them for total strangers. So I started the Instagram account, Dinner with Friends NYC, had about 80 followers, and I knew about 79 of them from home. And I started just inviting random people to come and eat dinner with me, and I would make a whole three-course meal, and we'd enjoy it together. It slowly became something a little bit bigger than I ever expected, and it's a bit shocking that I'm here right now, to be honest, talking to people about it. But I think, that's really what the spirit of Thanksgiving is about coming together. So Coren, I'm sure you've hosted many Thanksgiving. You've said your mom was on the Turkey Talk-Line, so I'm sure you ate some good food when you were growing up. And curious to know if you can share any favorite moments from your Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving that you've been to recently.
Yes, so Thanksgiving often looks a little bit different for me because my mom and I are working on Thanksgiving, answering all your questions. But that doesn't mean that I still don't enjoy the holiday and make time to spend with my loved ones. So I definitely have been to my fair share of Friendsgivings, and I still make time for that wonderful Thanksgiving plate. And I would say my favorite part of Friendsgiving would probably be, or Thanksgiving in general, would probably be the games. Card games are a lot of fun, and after we've all eaten, it's still time to really, it's still, nice to enjoy each other's company and laugh and have fun. So Thanksgiving is definitely a great time for that, especially after a really great meal.
Totally. And you've been, between you and your mom, you've been on the talk line for quite a while. I'm curious if there's any interesting things that you've heard or things that you've learned working on the talk line.
Yes, so I've definitely heard a few stories from her over the years, but one that I've gotten is a caller who came in and he was really unsure about how he thought his turkey, across the nation, it does get pretty cold. And he had said that, he thought his turkey in a pile of snow. Is it still safe? And in that case, like we spoke about earlier, no, we don't want to thaw our turkeys on kitchen counters in piles of snow, even if it's cold. You do want to make sure that you're thawing your turkey in the refrigerator or cold water. If it's not in the refrigerator or cold water, just go ahead and leave it in the freezer.
Makes good sense. We have a few more questions as well. We have a question about thermometers that are already in the turkey. So it looks like you were using using the thermometer to just check it. But if there's anyone who is maybe an advanced cook who has a probe or something like that that stays in, is that accurate? Is that something that you would recommend?
Absolutely. A probe thermometer that is oven safe is definitely a great way to monitor your turkey without having to open the oven door, right? So it's able to tell you the temperature on a monitor so that you can see how quickly it's getting up to temp over time. So yes, definitely if you're interested in those probe thermometers, you can look out for those, but standard meat thermometer is essential.
Yeah, totally. We've talked so much about roasting a turkey, but I'm curious, you mentioned there's some other ways you can cook a turkey as well. Do you have a favorite? Is there a way that you think that people should maybe try if they're doing it for the first time, if they don't want to roast?
Yeah, so my favorite way is actually to deep fry a turkey. It's really delicious, it's juicy, a really great way to cook a turkey. You can also grill a turkey. You can smoke a turkey. Smoked turkey is also really delicious as well. And if you wanted to try any of these methods and you're not really sure where to start, you can definitely give us a call and we can walk you through those steps. But yes, there are many ways to cook a turkey outside of just roasting in your oven.
Cool. All right. So it sounds like another way you could get creative if we were looking for that. We have a question for me actually about hosting for the first time and what that might look like, and if there's any insights that I can share. And I have a few. I've done this a few times. And hosting for strangers is definitely a added challenge, I will say. Um, I think my first bit of advice is actually to think about all of the details. So one thing I like to do that's a very practical tip is an exercise. I just do like a visual walkthrough. So if you think about yourself maybe going over to someone's house for the first time, especially if you're going over to a stranger's house for the first time to eat dinner with them, there might be a little bit of anticipation or nerves that come with it as well. So think about yourself if you're in that situation. What kind of things would you want to know before coming? And as soon as you arrived, what kind of things would you want answers to immediately? So I like to do a visual walkthrough of think about myself. If I was going over to someone's house, what's the first thing I do when I walk in the door? I have probably my shoes on, I have probably a bag, I have a coat. What do I do with all those things? So if you can give a little bit of clarity to your guests on what they might be able to do with all the extra stuff they're carrying, that's just one less thing that they have to worry about. If it's going to be awkward, do I keep my shoes on? Should I put my coat? Do I leave it on? Should I keep my bag in the back of my chair? So if you can just go through those small details and think about that guest experience all the way through, that can help to solve for some of the questions that you might get. So point out where the bathroom is. Are you shoes on or off household? If someone brings over a gift, where are you going to put it? Those kind of things are just small little touches that I think can make a gathering feel very extra special and thoughtful. The other thing as well that I would recommend, especially if you're hosting for the first time, something like Thanksgiving, there's so much expectation, there's so much going on, and you've made roasting a turkey look so easy, but you at the same time you probably have sides that you're cooking and that sort of thing as well. So I would ask yourself the question, what are the things that you want to do? And what are some things that maybe you could outsource or ask for help on? So maybe you want to be that person who's making the whole turkey. But when you're doing that, you want to make sure you're doing it well. So maybe you won't have time to run to the wine store to pick out the perfect Pinot Noir that you want to pair with it. So maybe that's something you ask your guests to bring. Bring the wine. It's one less thing for you to worry about. Think about also the tools you have at your disposal. So if you can borrow maybe that roasting rack from a neighbor, maybe that will make your life a little bit easier when it comes to actually roasting your turkey the day of. The last thing I'd just say is that remember, this is supposed to be something that's fun. At the end of the day, the reason you're coming together is to enjoy each other's company and to come together and celebrate that. So while there might be a little bit of anxiety associated with making sure things go smoothly, at the end of the day, what really matters is that your turkey is cooked all the way through and that you have people that you love surrounding you. So that's what I would focus on more than anything else, less on the actual prep for the event. Obviously, make sure that goes well, but it's not really about that at the end of the day. It's about that moment where you're really all coming together. Do you have any tips that you'd like to share, Corin, whether it's about turkey or anything else?
I definitely think you covered it. Staying on top of your prep work is going to help everything that you're cooking run a lot more smoothly. So as we started, we want to confirm our guest list first to know how many people we're cooking for. And you brought up a great tip of once our guest list is confirmed, maybe divvying out what each person can bring so it's less on you as the host to manage the day of.
Yeah, totally. And I think, that's the thing is about something like Friendsgiving is so wonderful because it's a chance for everyone to bring maybe a side dish or something to share. And there's less pressure on the host to actually prepare all of those things, but more focus on facilitating and all that kind of good stuff as well. I'm curious if there's anything that you want to make sure that our audience knows about doing this for the first time. If there's anything that you've seen that goes really well, anything to make sure that you definitely don't do. We have a question from Adia on common mistakes that first-time turkey roasters make.
Common mistakes, not thawing in time. Make sure that you are taking your turkey out of the freezer, and if you're choosing to put it into the refrigerator in time so that you're not trying to rush through the cold water thaw method. Because if your turkey is not fully thawed out, and you still try to roast it with ice crystals inside of it, or it's still got some icy spots, it's going to prolong the cook time to get to those done temperatures, and you may notice that some spots are fully cooked, some spots have gotten over dried and they're now dry, so overcooked and are now dry. So it's really important to make sure that you are working with a fully thawed turkey. And if you're not sure that you're going to be able to get your turkey thawed out in time, definitely pick up a fresh turkey just to skip over the thaw process. A fresh turkey is absolutely safe to use and a really great option as well. But definitely try to stay stress-free. Make sure everything you've got prepped and ready to go for when it's time to start preparing your turkey.
Totally. And those are actually all the questions that we have for the evening. So I want to say a very sincere thank you to everyone who's joined us. And thank you, Corin, as well, for these amazing turkey tips because you've really just made it look so easy. So I hope everyone is feeling inspired and empowered to host this holiday season. But remember, if you find yourself in a pinch or you want someone to just talk turkey with, you can call the Butterball Turkey Talk-Line. It's 1-800-Butterball for any of your hosting questions or any questions you have about turkey. If you're looking to celebrate with maybe some new friends, highly recommend downloading the Bumble for Friends app to find your table and find people to celebrate with. It worked for me. It might work for you. I think it's definitely worth a try. So whoever you're gathering with, whether that's friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, old friends, or brand new acquaintances, wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving from both Butterball and Bumble for Friends. So thank you so much for joining us. Have a very, very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.